Think you can do some pretty cool stuff with AI now? Wait till it does your laundry. Details are coming up in this short midweek episode of For Immediate Release. Another fine podcast from the FIR Podcast Network.
This is For Immediate Release, the podcast for communicators.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 320 of For Immediate Release. I'm Shel Holtz.
And I'm Neville Hobson. Question for all of you listening to this. Do you think Chorebots will cut time wasted on housework by 40% within a decade? And that's a new word, by the way, Chorebots. We've talked quite a lot, Shel, actually, about AI, generative AI, prompts to create text and all that, and it's got to the extent where the hype is huge. The sense of expectation is huge. Disappointment levels potentially are huge too when people realize that these things don't quite do what they expect. Hence, the hype cycle, where all this sits, is pretty much at the peak, if not above the peak even, of inflated expectations. But there's no escaping the fact AI, chatbots, ChatGPT, and now Chorebots will become, and many of it is already, the attention grabber for the coming year in a big way. And for this episode, I saw a story in the Times, the UK Times, just the other day that was great. Headline grabber: the chores AI will do for you within a decade. Some of it's already happening, but it's quite interesting. And this is based on a study led by researchers from the Oxford Internet and Ethics in AI Institutes at the University of Oxford. Published in the journal PLOS ONE, the experts estimated that 39% of the time we spent on domestic jobs could be saved. Domestic tasks like washing up, cleaning, laundry, even ordering groceries could become a thing of the past, according to this group, 65 AI experts from the UK and Japan. They were asked to assess how easy it would be to automate 17 domestic tasks and predict how much time this could save us in 10 years' time. A lot of it is really quite interesting. Some of it's quite mundane. Example, grocery shopping is the most likely task to be automated, saving 59% of the time we spend ordering food at present, so they estimate. My reaction when I read that was to say, well, actually, isn't that the case now? No, it's not, actually. It's manual still. If you do it online, you've got to do it. The AI is going to do this for you. And I think that could appeal to a lot of people. By 2033, according to this, 46% of the time we spend washing dishes, cooking and cleaning could be saved, with estimates of 43% for laundry, 40% for gardening, and 31% for pet care. Companies are working on automated domestic appliances. I know Samsung's doing a lot in that area and many others too, but I read about Samsung recently. Amazon is working on fridges that can detect when you're running low on an item and automatically add it to a shopping order. While Dishcraft, a US company, has designed a dishwasher for restaurants that can load and unload itself. That I'd like one of those at home as well, actually. Experts estimated that only 21% of time spent on physical childcare could be automated. This is the kind of the yes, but moment. The study questioned the social acceptability of delegating childcare to machines, with one unnamed expert noting that childcare would be the very last thing society will ever accept as suitable for automated services. And there will be lots of hurdles like that. There will be others too. We're already seeing it in the business sense of what we hear and read about. Artificial intelligence and tools that make our professional lives a lot more effective. There's another aspect of this which I'll talk about shortly, related to one example of a journalist here in the UK who used ChatGPT as his secretary. We'll come to that in a minute because that's quite pragmatic use, I think. And there's a couple of other examples too that we have. But before we get to that, this story in the Times is focused on society, a society-level story. It's not work. This is everything in your daily life. And indeed, your partner is going to be responsible for a lot of this stuff if you're the one who goes out to work and he or she is the one who's staying at home. So it's of interest to see developments in this. 10 years out, what do you reckon, Shell? Sooner? I reckon sooner. What do you think?
Sooner rather than later. I mean, this is a train that has left the proverbial station. And I think there isn't a company around that isn't trying to figure out how to incorporate it into their offerings. I just recently heard that every major tech organization now has a ChatGPT competitor in the works. Not one of them hasn't announced something yet. And a lot of people are using that to do what we consider to be chores. Now, the chores that are in the article that you cited are physical chores. And I have to say that I wish I could remember where I read this. It was not recent. It was a couple of years ago, that grocery shopping tops the list of the chores that people hate to do the most. You would think it would be maybe cleaning the toilet or something like that. But it's the fact that you have to get in your car, you have to go find a place to park. You spend 45 minutes pushing your cart up and down the aisle and trying to weave your way around other people who are clogging the aisles. And where is this item? I can't find it. Oh, they're out of what I need. And then you have to stand in the checkout line and then you have to take it home and unload it. People just despise it. And if there is an AI-powered robot that can do that for you, I think people will jump all over that. Same for doing dishes and doing laundry and all of these tedious tasks that keep you from doing the things that you want to be doing, like binge watching a show on Netflix, perhaps, or reading a good book or taking a walk. So I think there's huge incentive for the Samsungs and the Sonys of the world and the other companies that are into this type of product to get these out there sooner rather than later. I don't know, by the way, if you've seen the hit of CES is a robot pet that is AI infused. The video of this thing, I think it's called the Lumi, but I don't remember for sure, is just remarkable. Yeah. And this is here now.
Yeah, I think those things are not the mainstream, though. I think those are like attention getters. They're gimmicky a little bit. The possibility of what the tech could do. You mentioned the shopping thing. See, I'm the one who bucks these trends. I love doing grocery shopping. I like driving.
No, there's always somebody who's the exception to prove the rule.
Right? I hate online ordering, truly. So the way we are, because I work at home nearly all the time, I can take time out when I feel like it, which I do, and I'm the one who does the grocery shopping. So it means I can see what's going on in the stores, what brands are doing, how brands look. I can see things, you spot offers that you don't see when you're doing online ordering. So I like going there. But things have changed in recent years that I don't do the checkout queuing, none of that stuff, because I've got a scanner that scans all the stuff, and I take it to a special section of the store that I point the handset at a screen for a QR code, which totals everything up, and I just pay it with my contactless payment. Dead simple. Enjoyable experience. It really is. So my wife thinks I'm a bit weird, by the way, doing this, but I like doing it. So
I'm on her side.
Right. I know. So it is interesting, this. And just to go on the next level, as I alluded to earlier, this journalist who uses ChatGPT as a secretary, he wrote a really interesting, his name is Simon Usborne. He's a freelance journalist here in the UK. He published this piece in the Telegraph. It's long. It's a big, long read on his experiences over a day, on what he did. But this will resonate with many who maybe don't see some of the other stuff they read about AI tools as realistic, really. I mean, really, this is all kind of like you tech folks in Silicon Valley talk about. It's not the real world. This is real world, what he's talking about. It actually reminded me of a lot of when I was working for IBM, that back in the mid-teens, that all the talk there was getting your personal digital assistant to look after your Office 365 network setup. The email, the appointments, juggling a calendar to do this, that, and the other, and your to-do list and all that. That's a precursor to this. So here now it's matured a bit, if you will, this technology, where it's not like that. This is like this, i.e. it's an AI bot, as we're now calling them all, and it's typically ChatGPT, because that's the thing most people have heard an awful lot about recently, and they can kind of get a sense of things, and they measure things again. Is this kind of what ChatGPT would do? So Simon Osborne talked at length on some pretty basic stuff he did, and he gave a great example. And I can visualize this, where he had to fill out a form on his local council's website to request a new bin to put outside for the trash, the food waste. That's a big thing here in the UK now. Food waste is recycled, special collections. It arrived a couple of days later, but the disgusting old broken one was still there, and that was replacing an old broken one. So he said to ChatGPT, write me an email to Southwark Council to thank it for delivering a new food bin, but also to complain about its failure to collect the old one. In 3 seconds, ChatGPT writes 4 paragraphs that do exactly what I asked, even craftily pretending, as I would, that I care about more than my own interests, as well as describing the bin as an unsightly nuisance. It suggests it poses a risk to public health. Now, this is exactly the kind of stuff you'd want an AI to do for you. And he continues in this vein. It is a very entertaining read as well, but by goodness me, this thing resonates, I tell you. He talks about his list of friends, because he's a 40-something guy. It's more like a WhatsApp group is his friends list now. And they chat via WhatsApp and all this, and he's asking them this, he's asking them that. He asked ChatGPT to write some PowerPoint slides explaining the benefits of it, and he shared that with people who judged it and helped him understand how it was working. He asked ChatGPT to create recipes for a dinner party he was holding for his friends, so he cooks the stuff himself on some pretty kind of esoteric food choices from looking at his menu. He was impressed as hell with what ChatGPT came up with to write the menu. So these are the kinds of things people will want to be doing in their lives. It's not professional work per se. This is your personal assistant. It happens to be digital, so it's a personal digital assistant. We'll call it a secretary because he calls it his secretary. And I think we're already seeing this now, but these are early days. This is far from seamless, as he will attest, and indeed his examples are quite clear. But it's a starting point, and this requires people to do stuff like this, to share their learning experiences so it improves over time. So we're going to see more of this. And I wouldn't be surprised if that 10-year out time frame, potentially, I suspect is quite realistic. If you say the answer to it is that in the mainstream, this will be the case in 10 years' time, not niche experiments by people like Simon Osborne, the journalist, or what you and I are doing, for instance. I do stuff sort of like this just to see, what's it going to tell me, and where will it take me if I do that? I use ChatGPT. I'm on the paid level of that. A huge amount I use that for. Research mostly. It really is good. So he concludes his article where he says something at the end of it all. Something begins to niggle in my mind as I fire requests at the bot, however mixed the results. It isn't actually intelligent, of course, but in some cases it does a pretty stunning job of pretending to be. And it's only going to get smarter. What happens when it becomes so prolific that grandmothers, friends, children, bosses, and teachers find it hard to know who is real and who isn't? That is a pretty good warning signal, I think. We're seeing things happening with what we're currently using, whether it's Stable Diffusion or Midjourney, whatever it might be, ChatGPT, Bing, Bard when it hits our computer screens, all that. That should add this sort of moment in your thinking. It's kind of like thinking about, is this like the test for Skynet becoming sentient? I mean, if you think back to the Terminator movies. So I'm not suggesting for a second that we should be highly suspicious all the time of this, because these are useful things that they're doing. But this is not a perfect world in which we live, and 10 years out isn't that far away for this to improve a lot before it comes second nature. Let's hope it's a bit like iRobot, but without the nasty bits. So I think it's pretty exciting. This is a really good example, Shell. I don't know whether you had time to read it or not, but it really is good.
It is, and I've read another one that actually Lee Hopkins shared on Facebook. This was called a chatbot is secretly doing my job by Ryan Bradley. He talks about this task. It takes him about a half hour. He actively loathes it. He says, I scan a long list of short paragraphs about different people and papers from my organization that have been quoted or cited in various publications and broadcasts. Pick three or four of these items and turn them into a new standalone paragraph, which I am told is distributed to a small handful of people, mostly board members, to highlight the most important press coverage from that week. Well, he's trained ChatGPT to do this, and he now does it in 5 minutes. And I think you're going to see more and more of this kind of use. I mean, we had all the worries about kids writing their term papers and cheats, as opposed to just ways of taking mundane tasks and making them easier. And I think it's inevitable that you'll see robots, actual physical robots that have these AI capabilities. I'm also reminded of the book One-to-One Marketing. I wish I could remember the names of the authors, but this is already a reasonably old book. But they talked about the idea of one-to-one marketing with an example of somebody who would come to your house each week, look in your medicine chest, see what you're running low on and refill it, and over time get to know how quickly you go through stuff. So they're going to bring what they know you're already out of. And it's all about that personalization. And absolutely an AI can learn that. I have a refrigerator that can actually see all of the contents. I can look at it on my phone. The next step is to apply AI to say, gosh, you're really low on that pomegranate juice. I'll order that and have it delivered. So this is absolutely on its way. Yes. I think one of the issues that we're facing, though, is how aware are people of this. Pew is out with a study on the awareness that Americans have of AI. Pew found is that Americans are aware of common ways they might encounter AI in their daily life, such as customer service chatbots, product recommendations based on previous purchases. But only 3 in 10 are able to correctly identify all 6 uses of AI asked about in a survey, underscoring the developing nature of public understanding. And by the way, those 6 categories are wearable fitness trackers that analyze exercise and sleeping patterns, a chatbot that immediately answers customer questions, product recommendations based on previous purchases, security cameras that send an alert when there's an unrecognized person at the door, a music playlist recommendation, and an email service categorizing an email as spam. 27% of Americans say they interact with AI at least several times a day. Only 28% say they think they interact with it once a day or several times a week. And on this self-reported measure, 44% think they do not regularly interact with AI. And there is concern. Just 15% say they're more excited than concerned about the increasing use of AI in daily life. So I think there's a lot of public education to be done and skepticism to be overcome. But making life easier for people is what's going to do that. And the more examples that people see of how this can be done and how easy it is, I think the faster that change is going to happen.
I mean, one thing that's got some attention in recent weeks is in education, where ChatGPT in particular has been under fire as a method to enable kids to cheat. But interesting story again in the Times, the International Baccalaureate, which is an international educational assessment program, will let pupils use ChatGPT to write their essays. And the article quotes Matt Glanville, the head of assessment, principles and practice at the IB, saying they can do this as long as they do not pass it off as their own. So they disclose they've done this. And I think that is a very, very sensible approach. He's saying that the clear line between using ChatGPT and providing original work is exactly the same as using ideas taken from other people or the internet. As with any quote or material adopted from another source, it must be credited in the body of the text and appropriately referenced in the bibliography. Essay writing is, however, being profoundly challenged by the rise of new technology, and there's no doubt that it will have much less prominence in the future. And the interesting thing of all he mentions in this report is quite interesting. When AI can essentially write an essay at the touch of a button, we need our pupils to master different skills, such as understanding if the essay is any good, or if it has missed context, has used biased data, or if it's lacking in creativity. These will be far more important skills than writing an essay. So the assessment tasks we set will need to reflect this. Now, this opens up the huge debate. I mean, if you think the debate about, giving kids calculators destroys their natural ability to calculate mathematics in their minds. This is in that arena, because I've already seen some people with serious pushback on this. But this makes a lot of sense to me. And I bet you within 10 years, this is going to become the norm. So you're not testing them on writing an essay, because an AI can do that. You're testing them, is it any good, to assess the essay? Does it keep to the topic? Is it contextually right? Is it creative? Is it imaginative? And all those kinds of things. That's what kids should be tested on. But I recognize that not everyone will agree with that. So that opens that up. But this is now part of the landscape that we're in. So a lot going on, Shell, in this area.
Yeah, there's some big questions here. I mean, how much math do people really need in order to get along in day-to-day life when they have calculators in their phones?
You got it.
Yeah, I mean, there's the post-apocalyptic scenario, of course, that, oh my God, we don't have access to these tools anymore and we don't know how to add.
No, but we'll be talking more about this in future episodes. You can be sure of that.
Absolutely. And that will be a 30 for this episode of For Immediate Release.